Set, go. 2 seconds in.
Hello everybody, I'm Alana and I'm going to be showing you a presentation of work in progress on a case study. So first, I just want to let you know that we're going to have a little bit of a problem statement, which is how we got to the work in progress things. So our problem statement is basically, what if this company had well-developed products that included their brands and things like that, then they would be able to increase their income by 4%. And so with that, we're gonna start going to our outline into how I was coming up with ways to solve this problem statement. So for the outline, we're gonna start with our flat work, which will include our bio brand, some 3 expressive words, and also some inspiration. Then we're gonna go into brainstorming, where I'll be showing 7 different steps of brainstorming and how that I apply that to my project. And then very last, we're gonna go into sketch models, and we're gonna evaluate them, and then I'll show you guys I'll tell you guys later, it's a surprise. Okay, so let's begin with flat work. So with bio brand, it's composed of our image, biography, and the title block. And so with that, my whole thing is very organic, it's yellow, it's bright, it's inviting, and it's very soft and is very like family oriented. And if you look over here, I also have the same kind of feel when everything's very round and soft to include, very inclusive and things like that to make sure we continue that vibe. And again, you see here with simple, soft, and organic brush strokes and things like that. We always want to be inviting and soft and things like that, which takes us into the 3 expressive words. So these 3 expressive words is what I've used as inspiration to help come up with the different products that I've created today. And they are inviting, cocoon, and soft. And so with that, I kind of want to go into some of the different materials I was looking at that helped inspire not only the models, but some of the materials that I used within the models. So as you see, I have some tulips, some cotton, some wood, and some sponge. And with that, I kind of want to show you guys, if you don't mind touching some things, just so you can figure out kind of why I picked these items and things like that. So here's some soft felt that's from cotton, actual cotton balls and things like that. And those are kind of what I was using, trying to decide like what does this remind me of? Does that go back to my words like soft and cocoon and things like that? And that's kind of how I started to work. So other things that inspired me were the shapes of this card. Also being out in nature and things like that. Of course, having to have yellow because it's very bright and it's a happy color. And it's very inviting, again, family-oriented things. And also the shapes of the furniture is very cocoon-like, almost kind of reminds you of a chicken and the hen, how they caress everything. Now let's start to go into the brainstorming and how I came up with my 3 products. So step 1 is sharpening the focus. So in order for me to sharpen the focus, I was working with 2 different groups. The first thing I always did was that I would showcase the flat work that I just showed you guys. I wanted to make sure it was always on screen, or if I had to print it out, to make sure that we weren't going way too off focus, just going off of different ideas. And then also I kept in mind the problem statement, and I also reminded them of the problem statement if we just decided to go like very far left and things like that. So here's an example of how I showed it. I had made sure it was in front of everybody. This is one of the brainstorming sessions that I had. And I was just showing them, okay guys, don't forget, like these are great ideas. Let's just remember where we're coming from. So step number 2 is having playful rules. I kept telling them, it doesn't really matter what you draw, okay? As long as we're keeping in mind what the inspiration is, where we're coming from. We want to have more. You don't have to be a good drawer, because I'm not that good of a drawer, and some of them were very mechanical engineers or computer science engineers, and they did not have that skill. And I was always like, no worries, like an idea is an idea. It doesn't have to be that first one. It's just all about how you got there and what happens after that idea. So here's an example of one of the mechanical engineers just drawing. It was his first drawing. He was a little stressed out prior. He was like, I don't even know how to draw an egg. And I was like, it's okay. It's just about the process. So step number 3 is numbering the different ideas. And if you guys look over to the wall, I started numbering them once we started having more than like 5 or so, because I just kind of kept everybody around the same tables. That way we can kind of look at everybody. And then when we started putting them up, we're like, okay, let's start numbering them. That way we can keep track and be able to pull different numbers. Like, oh, I like number 12. I liked number 7. Let's kind of go off of there. And with that, we have step 4, which is build and jump. Now using this, we're basically taking one of the ideas, like I said, taking number 12 and we really like it. We're like, what else can I do to add on to number 12? And that's kind of what we were doing a lot. And one of them was starting with like a Baymax, like cartoon, soft, very fluffy thing. And then all of a sudden we started coming up with Eggernaut, which is just another very soft thing to cover up. And so we just kind of went and built and jumped, and that's one of the examples of that. So here's some people, they were kind of building and jumping off of each other. They were like, oh, I like what you did there with the bubbles. Oh, I kind of want to add that into mine as well. And so that's kind of a good idea of that. And then space remembers. So it's always important to have different walls and post-its that way you can see. And so for mine, I had a couple of things, like I said, I put up some of the sketches that we did prior, that way we can look at them and like, okay, now we already know what we did, and then we can use that to move on and continue to increase our workflow. So here's an example of how it was before we had everything up. Okay. So now we want to do stretching our muscles and things like that. We're watching videos and stuff to make sure everybody is keeping the brain flowing, and that's kind of an example. I was like, let's go play some videos about people using eggs and dropping them off of bridges, and it kind of helped everybody to how to take a quick relaxing moment and still have some fun. And the last thing is getting physical. So we wanted to touch different items and things like that. And so I had a couple of different items at each one. Some of them I had actual like food containers. This one, I had some different silk purses so we can get those ideas. And then on other ones, I also had actual eggs there as well. That way we can remember the smoothness and the roundness and keep that. So now we're gonna go into the sketch models. So what I did for each thing is that I made a quick little matrix, that way we can kind of evaluate how we're doing with this model, how does it relate to every other process that we went through. And so with that, we kind of went through having them, okay, let's go through 1, 2, and 3. I have no names for them yet because we're still in the works with them. So I kind of went through and I'm like, let's look at how it relates to the bio, the function, the softness, the feasible, different words like that. Like, can we actually build this? Can this actually be functional? So I went through personally myself and I picked my favorite, and the first one ended up being my favorite, which I'll show you which one that is in a moment. So we have 3 different products. So we have our first one, which is kind of a tulip fill. We have our second one, which is kind of like a slice of life, like a cake. And we have a third one that's a little bit of a, like a shell, and everything's trying to be very warm and cooling. So definitely go through in there. I already threw some eggs in there if you guys wanted to see how they functioned and things like that. And whenever you guys are ready, you can feel free to drop one from about 30 inches and see how you feel about it.
Is this 30?
Yeah, well, it's a little more than 30, but it's okay, it still worked.
Did it?
Yeah. Actually, I do have an egg in this one. It's okay, not even cracked.
One egg?
I want an egg.
Yeah.
So just to go over conclusion, we went over the flat work, the brainstorming, and sketch models, and how we are able to come up with these 3 different products. Thank you for your time. Let me know if you have any questions.
8.5 minutes.